The smartest thing being done right now is turning shopping malls into small apartments.
So welcome to the teeny tiny shoebox apartment
And we're about to
inside
see
the
how it's being done.
There
hopefully.
are lots of others in the building just like this. So mine is about 250 square feet. There's a walkway right in front of the facade because this used to be a shop front, and so people had to access all of the shops in the building.
While malls across the U.S. are facing store
It's probably one of the
closures and
smartest
empty
things
parking
that
lots,
the U.S. has ever
some
done.
are finding a new life from an unlikely source.
We are here at the Arcade Mall in Providence, Rhode Island, the oldest indoor shopping mall in the country. The Arcade had long been a center point in Providence's bustling downtown, but like other malls, it fell on hard times and was completely vacant. But rather than letting this historic building fall into ruin, developers came in and decided to build 48 micro lofts here on the second floor and up here on the third floor.
Sidebar conversation, if every abandoned mall that there is, and it's still in good condition without it rotting too much, if they can just do the inspections and turn it into small apartments like this, it would be
While
so good.
top-tier malls continue to be in
good.
high demand, nearly 34 million square feet of U.S. mall space is vacant and off the market. Almost 70% of Americans live within an hour of a mall that has a high vacancy rate, low consumer traffic, or is abandoned altogether. At the same
Not near
time,
abandoned,
the
but
country is facing a
I'm within
massive
one.
housing deficit of 4.5 million homes.
There's a housing problem in a lot of markets across the U.S., right? This is an opportunity
Yeah, we can't keep up with
to
the
find
builds.
land and
Oh God,
have
I
a
look
built-in customer base to get people in the
pale.
mall.
Monday through Friday, this is really busy down here.
Yeah.
It's definitely,
Trying to lean
people
back,
in the
trying to make sure I
offices
don't get too
working,
much
getting
of
lunch
a-
or whatever, and
of
the
a white
barbers
glare.
downstairs.
As of January 2022, at least 192 U.S. malls plan to add a housing component. The U.S. has about
Hopefully.
1,100 regional and super-regional malls, about 8.5% lower than 2015. So, can new housing developments help revive the classic American mall?
Yes.
And what's it like to live inside one? CNBC went to Providence, Rhode Island to find out.
Before this lady shows us what's being shown in her apartment or how much she has, I think if you live in the small apartment, you have to really consider what's prioritized and what isn't, because a lot of people will take everything with them. So you just have to prioritize what you want and what you don't need, and where will you put the other stuff? That's for you to figure out, you know. But
Amy Hinyon has been living on the top floor of a 3-story mall in Providence, Rhode Island for the past 2.5 years.
What's it like to live at the mall?
It's really great. It's cool to be part of such a historic building and knowing that every single one of these units used to be a shop of some kind.
But living in
agree.
a converted store does present some challenges.
Here is my very tiny kitchen. It is very small, but it is workable.
If it works, it
and
works, you know.
One of the interesting things about the units in the building is that because of codes, you can't have any cooking devices with an open flame. So none of the units have
you need an
stoves or
electric one.
ranges.
Yeah, you need an electric thing.
Do you ever have any concerns about privacy?
Not really. It's something you get used to living in the building, having people coming and going. Everybody has blinds in their apartment that they can raise or lower as they like.
They should
Despite
anyway.
those challenges, residents say having access to shops and restaurants makes living at the Arcade a unique experience.
I get my hair cut in the salon downstairs, and there's little lunch spots, so you don't even have to leave the building. There's a bookstore downstairs, and they'll
So you can
do
do
author
everything
talks
within the mall.
in the private lounge area.
Perfect zombie outbreak
Avoiding
place
New England's
to, like, hang
sometimes
out.
stormy weather is, of course, another perk.
If it's like pouring rain outside or if it's snowy, you just really can't be bothered to go out in the weather, you can still go downstairs
That's
and
insane.
take
That's-
advantage of those amenities.
And it's
this
not
is
just long-term
A+,
renters that are attracted
A+.
to the mall. Scott Sheehan is a real estate investor and rents out his apartment on Airbnb.
Some of these business owners that are down on the first floor, how important is it to them to kind of have a built-in customer base with these residents on the second and third floor?
I know a lot of folks are very loyal to, many of the bars, restaurants, clothing stores downstairs. So, the business folks downstairs definitely are interested in maintaining that relationship
That's good.
with the residents.
You definitely feel like you're part of the community more so than if you were just
It's a good thing because of the fact that they can only stay within the like if they're making that connection and they're staying within the business, it's better for them because at least they're not losing the customers. Everything's within the mall, so why would you want to
Just
lose
in a
anyone
standard
going out
apartment
when they can just
building.
do what they
It
need
has
to
been interesting with
inside?
people trying to unlock my door thinking that this is an Airbnb apartment. So sometimes you have to deal with the public more than you would in a regular home. But for
It's
me,
okay.
that's a small
You know,
compromise.
Yeah, yep.
When a mall dies, communities lose more than just a shopping destination. Malls often serve as economic hubs, generating billions in tax revenue and creating thousands of jobs. In 2020, U.S. malls and shopping centers contributed $400 billion.
We're saying our economy's bad. I'm not trying to bring anything into this thing because I hardly talk about politics. I avoid it as much as possible. I avoid anything that I don't want to deal with. But how can we say that we're not making money when U.S. shopping malls are contributing $400 billion? How?
In tax
How are we
revenue.
saying this?
When malls
we are not
close,
making
it
money,
triggers
but
an
$400
economic
billion?
domino effect.
Oh
Local
my
businesses
God.
suffer, jobs are lost, and vacant spaces become eyesores.
And that's fair, but
To combat this,
what?
developers are transforming dead malls into mixed-use spaces, offices, medical facilities, and housing. Of these conversions, nearly 54% are being used for residences and office space.
That's the way to
Once
go.
upon a
It's better.
time, retailers like Macy's and JCPenney were the anchors of America's malls. But department stores are shrinking. Macy's plans to close 150 of its namesake stores by 2027.
Which I did a video on,
JCPenney,
by the way.
which has already closed hundreds of stores since declaring bankruptcy, is closing 4 more between this year and next, despite a $1 billion turnaround investment plan.
Is that,
When you
how is that
have
possible?
dead retail space, it can be easier to clear that. Most of what a retail site is parking lot. So you don't have to demo much to demo a parking lot, and the buildings themselves are generally easier to demo and then adapt into a retail space.
The arcade is a little bit different than some of the other mall-based residential projects out there. Most of them, like the one at Flatiron Crossing in Broomfield, Colorado,
Hey.
are adjacent to the mall and connected by green spaces or
I
walkways.
was about to comment on that, but that's
This was
okay.
a
never mind.
vacant
I
parking
was like,
lot,
I know that
underutilized
place.
parking here at the mall, and we, decided to go with a mixed-use project here.
All of the benefits that the shopping center itself bring to the equation. You have a highly amenitized residential project that's much more desirable than something that might just be, in an isolated location.
Yeah.
Not only
True.
does it meet housing needs, but it also revitalizes the property by bringing in a new customer base that can boost on-site restaurants, gyms, and entertainment venues.
Well, just overall bringing the business, right?
While housing in malls sounds promising, it's not without its challenges. Zoning laws can be a major hurdle. Malls are typically zoned for commercial or mixed use, not multifamily residential. Developers often need approval from local jurisdictions to move forward.
Like any other developer, are having to navigate things like interest rates, construction costs, the capital markets, and so on.
Another obstacle is design. Most malls have limited windows, which are essential for residential spaces because
I think you can make the windows, right? You just have to know the plans, the layout of the building, and you can make the windows. You can do skylights. I mean, anyone who's like on this, you can do a skylight. Anyone who's down there, you can do outdoor window. It's possible. It's just depending on what the layout.
they
of
need
the plans
natural
look
light,
like,
making
right?
it difficult to convert certain parts of the mall. Usually, only the exterior-facing retail spaces are suitable for housing. Converting commercial office space into apartments is another trend, but it's often very expensive. A study found that in 5 U.S. metro
So
areas
blinding.
hit hardest by remote work, the estimated office acquisition price would
Pale.
need to drop
There
by
you go.
50% for the conversion to be financially feasible.
Conversion projects are really tricky because, a lot depends upon existing conditions, which you might not
Ooh.
always know about. But to give you a range,
I
on a
don't know what
very
happened,
low
I'll be
end,
honest.
you'd be looking at maybe $200 a square foot to convert, where on the upper end, you might be looking more at like $800 or more per square foot to convert.
Despite those headwinds, malls across America just might have a second chance if they can truly become the housing hubs of the future.
The mall is becoming cool again. And so being able to live by it, work by it, play by it, go to restaurants by it, we're definitely seeing this as a trend.
Some people are confused and they'll say, like, why would you want to live in a space that's small? But for me, it's about having a reasonable apartment
Price.
at a reasonable price
Agreed.
that will force me out into the community and interacting with the people outside. The point is not to stay in the 250 square foot studio, it's to interact with the downtown that you're living in.
So who would let me just do this. So who would pay for, like, or who would own the building and then people would pay their rent to? Would it be to the company who owns the building or someone else? Because I mean, they don't have to really say it, but I'm just kind of interested on how that would work. And is utilities included or not included? Because technically everything's part of the building. So this whole thing is kind of really interesting just to know that we can transform malls into literally small living spaces for people to afford and live in. And I don't understand why we can't do more of this with places that are actually not being used anymore. Office buildings, malls, small strip centers, all of it. I mean, it would save a whole lot of money instead of building places, but we got to figure it out at some point, right?